Ward, you met with President Trump recently, and one of the topics of discussion was rebuilding America's roads and highways and tunnels and bridges. What did the president tell you specifically about when this is all going to happen?
Well, he'd like to see it happen. And he's rolled out a plan that's a $1.5 trillion plan. I think he's looking for specifics really from Congress. But importantly, he's looking for specifics from the business community as well. So it was a good dialogue. I'm certainly not the first person to speak with him about this. I'm sure I won't be the last person to speak with him about this. But we do have an underinvestment for a long time in infrastructure, and he wants to address that.
Is there money for it? I mean, we hear from Congress that they're not in favor of this. They've already done those big tax cuts. Where is the money going to come from?
You know, it's odd. I'm not sure Congress isn't in favor of it. I think Congress is wondering how best to pay for it. And here's the fundamental dilemma. Congress has paid for it for 50 plus years using a federal gasoline tax. And they haven't raised or indexed that tax in 25 years.
What about a gas tax? I mean, I know that's a quick way to bring in the funds, but how realistic really is it?
Well, it's fascinating to look at the debate today because you've got two different groups who came out very quickly in favor of a gas tax. One, the United States Chamber of Commerce. So they're looking at a 25 cents gas tax increase over a period of 5 years. And if you go and look at the Chamber's history, that's the only tax that I can think of in the history of the Chamber that they've tried to push upward. So the Chamber is certainly there, and the American Trucking Association is as well. They're looking more at 20 cents as opposed to the quarter that the U.S. Chamber is. But for every penny of gas tax that you get an increase in, or user fee is the way that we like to think of it, it's about $1.7 billion in increased revenue going into the Highway Trust Fund.
How realistic is it?
And what I think if we could look at some form of a user fee increase, or at a minimum, if we could index the user fee, then it could be awfully helpful.
Let's talk a little bit more about Martin Marietta itself. President Trump is also a big advocate of building a wall between the United States and Mexico. And given that your company is the leading supplier of things like concrete and gravel, how much of a moneymaker can that be for your company?
It would be considerable amounts of stone and concrete and cement. So it's hard to put specific numbers to it right now. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, President Trump was in San Diego looking at different portions of walls to determine what specifications that he's most interested in. So we're not entirely sure what that's going to look like, but it's impossible to think about something that would be of that scope that wouldn't require significant products from Martin Marietta.
So we're hearing a lot about trade tariffs. To what extent could this help or hurt your business?
I don't believe they'll hurt our business. I think they could actually help a piece of our business because we do have some of our business that's actually tied very directly to the manufacture of steel. And if we see steel capacity utilization go up in the United States, particularly past 70%, and that's really a relatively low bar, we think that's very helpful to Martin Marietta.
But what about overall with the Trump trade tariffs? Do you feel like many CEOs that the tariffs could slow down the U.S. economy? What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are it won't particularly slow it down. I think we don't even really know who's going to be affected and how. I think we're looking for fundamental fairness. I think we're likely to see Canada and Mexico exempted from it. And if we see those types of exemptions, we're likely to end up in a pretty fair spot on this.
When you talk to your customers, I know you go out a lot to building sites and where you're doing your projects. What are you hearing from your customers about the business environment?
I'm hearing from them that they have better backlogs today than they've had in more than a decade. I'm hearing that they're having a need to hire more people, and I'm hearing that they're having record years last year and looking at a better year this year. So if we're looking at the contracting community, and that's really who our customers are, they're going into this year with a heightened level of optimism that I haven't seen for quite a while.
You do sound pretty optimistic. I mean, how bullish are you about the economy?
Well, I think it's going to be a good, slow, steady, extended run. And actually, a business like ours does really well with that. We don't do particularly well with peaky and troughy periods that move that way in erratic cycles. Good, slow, steady cycles for us is really the best type of cycle that we can be in.